Once again, another controversy has halted our potential enjoyment of another game announcement. Yasuke, the historical figure in many pop culture media, is now confirmed as one of the main leads in the newest Assassin's Creed game, and yet many are now using this as a great time to spew their own political garbage on us, and one very specific man is taking advantage again. Who is that, and what the hell am I talking about? Well, let's get into it. So, to give you a little bit of background on everything right now, pretty much a lot of right-wing people online are using this as a cudgel against the left, or they, or them, or whatever amorphous enemy they think they're fighting at this point, to call them hypocrites, that they're just using a black man they're gonna tokenize him in this game. They're actually culturally appropriating Japanese culture, even though a lot of Japanese studios at this point love using white dudes in their games with Neo, or they like using Yasuke in Samurai Warriors. They don't seem to have an issue with it then. One of the ways in which they're attacking this is Yasuke wasn't a real samurai. He was never granted the rank of samurai. One of these people, Ian Miles Chong, if you never heard of him, he's pretty much just a right-wing provocateur that throws up whatever he can for money at this point. He put up a big old article on Twitter. It's not that long, thankfully. I can read through some of it for you here. So, the woke love to talk about a cultural appropriation and how it's wrong to do so. So let's talk about Ubisoft. A French company is culturally appropriating Japanese culture through DEI with their latest game, Assassin's Creed Shadows. They're rewriting Yasuke, a black man who arrived in the indentured service of Italian missionaries to Japan as a full-blown samurai sword master. In reality, he was a servant. He was the first black man that the daimyo Oda Nobunaga had ever seen, and asked the Italians to hand them over to him, kind of like a pet, which they did. One did not refuse the daimyo. Being the only black person in Japan, that just gets funnier as I keep telling you things, Yasuke became one of Nobunaga's treasured possessions, and Nobunaga vassalized him into his retinue, gave him a short sword, and had him accompany him all over the place. By all accounts, Nobunaga liked Yasuke. His stay was pretty brief though, about 3 years. When Nobunaga was betrayed and forced to take his own life, the victors had to decide what to do with his possessions and decided to spare Yasuke's life, deeming him to be not Japanese and thus not worthy of being treated the same as other members of Nobunaga's vassals. There is no record of him putting up a fight. This probably saved his life, and they sent him off to live in India at a monastery where his story ends. That aside, he certainly wasn't a samurai, who were hereditarily military nobility. Describing Yasuke as a samurai is like pretending a black man who was part of any European court a knight. That just did not happen. And of course he ends with the, they're culturally appropriating, they're hypocrites, they're disrespecting Japanese culture. One more tweet just to give you a little bit of background on this. One more. Grummz, the main character of this whole thing, and what I'm doing a whole big video about, is one of the dumbest people I have ever seen on Twitter, and one of the most outrageous grifting people I have ever seen. He will confirm your biases and say whatever you want him to, as long as you pay him some money. So, his tweet. So, at IGN promotes that Assassin's Creed Yasuke was a samurai myth, cites the official historian that the game consulted with. The historian who wants to destigmatize master acolyte transgenerational sex in her work, Tales of Idolized Boys. Come on, Ubisoft, this is getting ridiculous. That book that Sachi Schmidt-Hori, the historian that apparently worked with Ubisoft on this game, this book is nowhere near what Grummz, the moron, is insinuating it to be at this point. Tales of Idolized Boys goes into Chigori, Chigo, serve their masters as personal attendants and sexual partners. This does not talk about underage sexual relations or anything like that. That is just not the case in this book. I actually read this book in one of my classes in college. There's nothing in this. I could go deeper, but I got enough on my hands to worry about in this whole story. And finally, to end on this, Ian, I probably wouldn't use the title "We Was Samurai." That has connotations going with white nationalists. And if you ever look up the phrase "We Was Kangs," you'll find out why you probably shouldn't use that title. That's more racist than this entire thing that you're claiming the left is doing at this point. So, just to dive into it a little bit, was Yasuke actually a samurai, or could he fight with a sword, or anything of that sort? Encyclopedia Britannica seems to think so. This article was written by Everett Muniz, who is an editorial intern at Encyclopedia Britannica in 2021 and 22. He is expected to graduate from Occidental College in 23 with a bachelor's degree in history. And this article currently right here, this is also judged and reviewed by the editor process or the editor board, the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica, to be truthful. They have looked over this and apparently they agree Yasuke was a samurai. Yasuke, born in the 1550s, was a black samurai who served the daimyo Oda Nobunaga in Japan during the Sengoku Warring States period. He was the first known foreigner to achieve samurai status. As recorded in the diary of the samurai Matsudaira Idatada, sorry for messing up that name, Yasuke's height was 6'2". He was black and his skin was like charcoal. So obviously Oda Nobunaga had a certain look about him, probably kept him around as a novelty for a little bit. But one of the things that made him kind of a perfect samurai, Britannica says, is Yasuke would have towered over the average Japanese person of that era. The majority of Japanese people, including Nobunaga, had never seen a black man. Upon meeting Nobunaga, Yasuke was reportedly stripped and scrubbed, as Nobunaga believed that his skin was just dirty. Yasuke immediately gained Nobunaga's favor. Historians assume that Yasuke knew Japanese well enough to have conversations with Nobunaga, and they also believe that he quickly proved to Nobunaga his skills as a soldier. Soon after their first meeting, Nobunaga granted Yasuke his Japanese name, accepted him into his service, and made him the first recorded foreigner to receive the title of samurai. Yasuke was also one of the few people who dined with Nobunaga, which demonstrated the closeness of their relationship. As a samurai, Yasuke would have fought in several battles for Nobunaga, though the exact number is unknown. So apparently, Encyclopedia Britannica, written by a guy who has his bachelor's degree in history at the very least, and the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica apparently all have concluded that Yasuke was a samurai. Now, do they put their sources in this specific thing to show that? No. So maybe he couldn't have been a samurai. It's still possible, but apparently there are some sources saying that he was indeed a samurai. Continuing on, this will be the last point. In the IGN article that Grummz brings up, he misses this little section. This is just one of the many, I'll just say, lies that he keeps spouting, this Grummz, Mark Kern. In the 1582 annual report of the Jesuit mission in Japan, Portuguese missionary Luis Froy wrote that, quote, the black man understood a little Japanese and Nobunaga never tired of talking with him, and that some people in the town thought that Nobunaga might make him as Tono, a high-ranking samurai. But in his tweet, he leaves this out very conveniently. These people are pretty much just selling you on a confirmation bias. And why are they doing this? For money, of course. Now, Grummz is going to be the main character for the rest of this video because I am planning on doing a whole just archiving of all of his stupid statements up to this point in his past and just summing up what you're getting when you become a Grummz fan at this point and how much you've been lied to by this person. Grummz, if you don't know, is pretty much at this point a right-wing Donald Trump-like character. He understands that if you confirm the biases of certain people at this point, they'll pretty much follow you anywhere you go and defend you to the death, no matter if you actually are correct at this point. One of his tweets was, so, at Ubisoft apparently changed Assassin's Creed Shadows, throwing away the original story and instead running with Yasuke, an obscure black retainer of Nobunaga, as front and center. And Ubisoft writer who worked on the game says the original story was completely different. So apparently this person on Twitter, this is what they're saying. I worked on some of the narrative elements of the Sengoku era of Japan for Assassin's Creed back in 2013-2014. I guess they tossed all that out for Black Samurai and some canon-destroying Kunoichi girl boss, pretty much is what he's saying. This person, in a very long tweet thread, this is what he's basically saying. Grummz finished this off, is that this story gels with what employees at Ubisoft tell me, that Ubisoft is completely locked down with DEI and is the most oppressive studio to work at, as DEI is everywhere. Yasuke himself is a footnote of the Nobunaga story. Nobunaga was fascinated with the color of his skin and he was kept as a retainer until Nobunaga was betrayed and slain. Yasuke fought part of that battle but surrendered and was imprisoned. Not much is known about him, but Ubisoft decided to run with it anyways. Once again, there's still a lot of debate on what Yasuke actually did or didn't do, but right now, Grummz is lying to you. And he still has this tweet up, even though he had to retract this point right here. Ubisoft didn't change anything. I have other sources that I trust that are telling me that the story might be unchanged after all. I can't go into specifics, but this original poster might not have had the full story. He continues, and you will see this behavior, this pattern of behavior continue for this man. If you're a fan of him, you need to understand he's going off half-cocked and he's not really checking the facts on almost anything he says at this point. In another tweet, he says, the real issue with AC Shadows is that every game in the series highlights a local character to that culture except this one. Makes no sense. Hey, Grummz, in the picture that Assassin's Creed Shadows puts up, there's a native Japanese woman sitting right there. She's there. She's a ninja from Japan. They just don't recognize her at this point, I guess. He continues to do this every single time. He even brings up even more tweets that make absolutely no sense. Once again, showing his rigorous research into all of this. He is responding to a tweet saying, hey Grummz, just to make sure I'm understanding your point, you're okay with Yasuke being the main character so long as the game is good? I'm a little slow when it comes to these things. Grummz responds, yes, if the change was not done for pandering, and I'm told it was not, casting doubt on the Ubisoft original post, and the character is well written and the game is good, but this is Ubisoft we're talking about. That if is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. He, on one hand, gets to insinuate that they're bad people and still gets to have the credit of having retracted or said he was wrong. This is the type of guy you do not follow. He is going off half-cocked every single time with his tweets and not actually retracting them. Many of these tweets are still up, even though many of them are demonstrably false and lies. Now, Grummz, I'm very small. He'll never probably talk to me, but there are plenty of people he should be talking to, like Nick Calandra, who is actually looking into Grummz and a lot of the stuff that he's been up to. Where does Grummz talk to, though? Who does he go and talk to, though? Well, he goes and talks to hug boxes.
The one thing I want to point out is that, there are racist comments to some of these threads. But one thing, and some of it is, people are very far right, and we have extremists on both ends. That definitely needs to be pointed out, and that's not appropriate. I want to say that. But the second thing I want to say is that a very common tactic of the left is to create sock puppet accounts to insert racist comments into threads so they can call them out. This has been done time and again. They go so far as to post CP in Reddit forums and things like that in order to frame them. This is a very common tactic. Oh, God. So when you see these hate posts, remember some of them, not all, some are really racist. Some of them are sock accounts.
That's crazy. Okay.
He goes in and talks to people he knows won't challenge him on any of his views. This whole thing highlights the grift that is happening right now from Mark Kern, aka Grummz. He has single-handedly ruined a lot of some gaming spaces at this point. He is putting out outright falsehoods, and you should know about it if you're a Grummz fan. I am putting together a much bigger video, and I'm probably going to be making smaller videos like this, kind of just putting together an archive of all of these things at this point. But I'm putting together a bigger video on all of this because it doesn't just stop there. Mark Kern is a very interesting character. I hope to see you, alongside me when we look at all of this again. But right now, Assassin's Creed Shadows is getting beat down for nothing at this point. This is post-production 10-wise. Have we seen the prices on pre-orders in this game? Really? Ubisoft? You just... Whatever Mark Kern and everybody else are doing, it's stupid and wrong, but this is... Okay, maybe a little bit of something here for Ubisoft. Maybe more than a little bit. All right, back to the video. There is no controversy here. It's only people looking for money. And in that same vein, what does Grummz usually say after the end? Oh, what does he say? Oh, right. If you like the inside baseball and what is happening within the gaming industry and the battle over gaming culture, please subscribe. Note that he's not asking you to follow his Twitter account, he's asking you to subscribe. Give him $5 a month, that way he can confirm all of your confirmation biases. This is Grummz. He is doing all of this. He's saying exactly what you want to hear, so you'll give him money. Now, there's a lot of other things about Grummz we could get into, how he's had several, studios, he was ejected from his old studio, but it's a lot to go through, and I may make more. If any of you are interested in this story, please subscribe, like the video, and I may do more like this because there is a deep deep well of content right there with Grummz, and I'm just itching to get into it. And it may be a pretty long video when I put it out, and these smaller videos I can keep putting out for you. I just want it to be known that this entire controversy is not a controversy at all. It's been manufactured by people who want money and are outright lying to you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe to the channel today for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching.